Oh, you can have the best email flows, the most compelling copy, amazing designs, grabbing offers, but none of that matters if your emails aren't reaching the inbox. So after sending over 150 million emails for 70 plus e-commerce brands in the last 4+ years, I can tell you that poor deliverability is likely killing your email revenue, and you probably don't even know it, right? So that's why I built out this complete email deliverability guide for 2025. This isn't your basic warm up your IP advice that every other video talks about. This is going to cover in depth our complete deliverability system that we use to help out brands like Rest.com, Dr. Kellyanne, and MeterWorld like consistently land in their primary inbox and generate millions in email revenue. Okay, so if you don't know who I am, my name is Matthew Gale. I'm the founder of the Kaizen Blitz. We're a full service retention and lifecycle marketing partner that helps e-commerce brands convert more customers, increase MRR, drive higher lifetime values. You know the stuff. We've generated over $20 million for 70 plus brands, and so that's essentially a little bit about us. But yeah, so before we start talking about how to fix your deliverability, let's talk about how do you know if you're even having deliverability issues in the first place? So there are a few key indicators to look out for. So number one are your email open rates. Are your emails consistently below 20% open rates, right? Are your campaigns, your flows, what's the performance looking for like? If so, then they're likely landing in the spam folder because no one's opening them. So that's something to look out for. Number two is your deliverability score within Klaviyo. So Klaviyo has an integrated deliverability score. It's on the left-hand side. You can find out your score based on what you've sent out over the last 30 days. And they kind of look over a few basic metrics here. These are kind of their guidelines as to what it constitutes a good versus bad deliverability score. Generally, from what I've seen, if you're around 65, then you're fine. 65, you can improve a lot more. If you're above 70, then you're good and you should be doing pretty well. Next, just send a spam test. So send a test email to your personal email address from your service provider like MailChimp, Klaviyo. Just send an email to your personal email and check your spam box, see where it lands. If it's landing in the spam folder, for you, it's probably landing in the spam folder for many other people. Next, use a spam test software. So run a spam test, super simple. If you want a free solution, I prefer MX Toolbox. If you want paid, I highly recommend Glock Apps. It's a really powerful tool, breaks it down by sending domain. They also offer a free trial based on you get a few free email tests. So feel free to check that out. It's an amazing tool. And then lastly, Google Postmaster. Google has their own sender reputation platform that tracks whether your emails are secured, are securely sent, how many are delivered successfully, and which ones are marked as spam. So you can go ahead and set that up as well. So if you go through this and you check it all out and you find out that your emails are getting delivered, now what? What do we do? How do we get started into repairing that? So before I give you the quick rundown of how this all works, let's understand the basics of how email deliverability works, just so that from a higher eagle eye view level, we have to first understand the email ecosystem. So inbox service providers like Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, Outlook, AT&T, SBC Global, all these different email inbox service providers are the email services that your subscribers use every day, right? We also use it, I use it, you use it, everyone uses it. So they handle billions of emails every day to make sure good emails reach people and bad emails don't. That's all they do. They just sift through the mail and they just check, hey, is this bad? Is this spam? Is this a scam? Is this fishy, etc. And so that's essentially what they do. They sort through incoming mail. They learn from user behavior. They monitor sender reputation, and so they just want to protect their users from scams, spams, fishy behavior. They just want to make sure everyone that uses their platforms have a good experience overall. And not only that, they each have their own rules and preferences with what emails they label as spam. So Gmail might love your emails while Yahoo just sends it straight to spam, and vice versa. So they have their own unique rules, but at the same time, they talk to each other. They gossip. They like to communicate with each other because if you get marked as spamming Gmail, Yahoo and Outlook might start getting suspicious too. So it's pretty much just like a bad Yelp review that follows you everywhere, right? So this is pretty much just Gmail, Yahoo, and Apple telling each other about your spam mail. But how do ISPs like Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, how do they sort through spam? So how these ISPs work is that they are constantly analyzing both inputs. So inputs are what you send out, and outputs. So how recipients respond to your emails. It's a constantly revolving feedback loop that feeds upon itself in order to make sure that whatever you're sending out is good. So pretty much here, this is your email content, this is your sender reputation. It gets sent and ISPs register that. They check it out, they see how it looks. And if it looks spammy, if it looks fishy, if something's up, they might send it to spam. And if not, then they might just automatically send it to spam, right? So this is a way that they can send it to spam. On top of that are your outputs, right? So the ISPs, they monitor your outputs of positive signals and negative signals. And these signals communicate with ISPs. They see this and they say, okay, do people want to receive these emails or do they not? And so that goes back to your inputs and leads you down a rabbit hole of, okay, you're sending bad emails, people are not engaging, responding well to them. ISPs see this, okay, they negatively mark your emails as spam. That's essentially how it works. But let's go through this document and let's go through all the email inputs that are in your control, right? So inputs are all the decisions you make with your email before you hit send. Pretty much ISPs, like I said before, they look at these inputs to make their first judgment about whether your email belongs in the inbox or the spam folder. And the four main types of inputs that the ISPs look out for are technical setup, email content, sending patterns, and your email list, right? So are you verified? Is this email well set up? Are you sending responsibly? And are you emailing valid email addresses, right? Getting these inputs right is the first step to reaching the inbox. If you get them wrong, your emails might just go to spam before anyone else sees them. So this is something really, really important to keep in mind as we go along this, and just to make sure you're landing into the inbox. So number one, technical setup, your technical foundation. So this only needs to be set up and monitored one time. You don't really have to worry about it after the fact. So sending domain authentication, there are certain protocols that are necessary to set up as you are sending out emails to make sure that ISPs like Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, they know that the emails are coming from you. They're verified. It's not fishy behavior. So SPF, DKIM, DMARC, you might have heard of these already. I'm not going to get into too much depth. You can read it right here, but it's really important to set these up as you're going along, and as you start sending out emails. Now, here's also a guide if you don't know how to set these up yourself. It's very simple and easy. You can just follow this guide here. Also, did not mention this. This entire guide is in the comments below or within the description below. So be sure to check it out there. So sending domain authentication, you have to make sure your sending domain is authenticated. Next is IP sending addresses and reputation. This isn't something too much you have to worry about. This is mainly handled by your email sending platforms like OmniSend, MailChimp, Klaviyo, SendLane. This is more of their responsibility, so you don't really have to worry about this. But if you have so there's a difference. So these platforms, they use servers to send out their email addresses, and every server has an IP address, right? And every IP address has an IP reputation, right? So it's pretty much just measures the trustworthiness of emails coming from that IP address. So, and there's two types of IPs you can have. You can have a shared IP or a dedicated IP. Shared IP means that your emails are influenced based on the other emails that are getting sent by the IP. So if you're on MailChimp, Klaviyo, OmniSend, and you first join the platform, your emails are getting sent from the same email servers as 5, 10, maybe 20 different companies, right? They're all originated from the same IP addresses. But if you have a dedicated IP, you have your own IP address based on your domain and your profile. It's only one for you. Now, this isn't always great because this means that you have more control over your spam and making sure you avoid the spam box. But if you do land in the spam box, it's a lot harder to get out of it. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. You are most likely sharing an IP address unless stated otherwise by your ESP. If it's set up in a specific way, if it's set up in a specific way with Klaviyo or OmniSend, then it's probably dedicated. Otherwise, it's going to be a shared IP address, and it's not something you have to really worry about. They monitor this stuff. They make sure that it all works well because they don't want you and everyone else to start landing as spam. So, but that's something to keep in mind that I wanted to throw in here because it's an important thing to know. Next, sending domain reputation. So your domain also has a reputation along with your IP address. So it reflects the credibility of emails associated with your domain. This is more linked with like quality of content, engagement rates, pretty much how like your subscribers are interacting with your emails. This isn't super important. This is pretty important, but as you build it up and build a reputation, it's pretty hard to knock down. One thing to note though is that you have to set up your own branded sending domain. This is 100% necessary for Google and Yahoo. They've made it a requirement. If you're in Klaviyo, they're going to let you know about this. I don't know about other sending platforms or email service sending platforms like MailChimp or OmniSend. So that's number one. That is your sending. Number two is your email list. The quality of your list directly impacts deliverability. So if you're sending out to the wrong people, if people aren't engaging with your stuff, if you're sending to invalid email addresses, that could lead to high bounce rates and just hurt your sender reputation in general. So number one is building your list. You can't send to the wrong people if you don't let those people on your list in the first place. So how you collect emails directly impacts your sender reputation. This is really simple and straightforward. Just do not buy email lists. Never buy an email list. If you're going to send over an email list from one account to another, or you're transferring brands, or you're doing a rebrand, whatever, you have to do it in a very secure way and only interact with the engaged subscribers. You cannot email the entire list. 3, use double opt-ins for new subscribers. If your email deliverability is really hurting, use this. This helps a lot. People have to double opt-in. Pretty much when people sign up through the pop-up, they have to confirm it within their email address that they want to receive your emails. And number 3, use reCAPTCHA or another verification system to repel bots. Bots is a really simple issue that happens oftentimes with brands. So just keep this in mind as you're growing. If you see that pop up in your ESP. Next are sending segments. So you do not want to be emailing your entire list. Please do not tell me I promise you, if you're emailing your entire list and your email list is not below 1,000 people, you're going to be sent to spam. Okay, so group your subscribers by their engagement levels and behaviors. Pretty much just create engaged segments by day ranges. So people who have engaged with your emails in the last 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, etc. Do not email your entire list. Test your segments before you send full tests, or just like send a test segment or send a test email to one segment. Adjust segments based on results. That's essentially it, and just monitor performance there. And lastly, exclusionary segments. Even though you might segment your customers, there's still a lot of other customers that you probably don't want to communicate with. And these are people that should not be receiving your emails. These are invalid, risky, problematic email addresses, people that have sent you to spam, people that have probably already bought from you before, stuff like that. So you have to keep in mind. So best practices: suppress all bounced emails and unsubscribes, answer spam complaints, create an unengaged segment to exclude from campaigns, remove subscribers who have never engaged with your emails. This is a big one. There's a lot of people out there who have never engaged with your emails. You've sent them 20 different emails and they've never engaged, they never opened, they never clicked one of them. You don't want to keep emailing these people. So you pretty much want to remove them and suppress them. It's a really simple segment you can set up there. And then also, don't email subscribers who have not been contacted in over a year. ISPs like Yahoo, Outlook, Office 365, I think Gmail as well, they're going to be removing these emails. They're going to be getting rid of them and might even turn them into spam traps. Those are just rumors. I don't know exactly how true this is, but this is something to keep in mind. And so if you haven't emailed these people in over a year, do not email them again. Just remove them from your list. Next, we're covering email content. So this is everything that you contain in your message. You have to make sure and go through this checklist to make sure everything's covered for every email campaign and flow you send out. So number one, subject lines. These are the first things your ISPs see and they look at. So just don't be spammy. Don't use all caps. Don't use excessive punctuation. Don't use spam words like limited time, act now. Make sure everything's spelled correctly. Make sure your personalization is set up well and correctly. make sure you don't catfish your audience. Don't say that your email, don't allude that your subject line is one thing and then send them something else completely differently. It's just not the best behavior you want to look out for. Don't avoid the stuff you don't want to be doing it. 2, email copy and content. So your overall content and word choice impacts spam scores, as well as the type of content you send out. So if you're sending like educational or value-based content rather than promotional emails or like discount-based emails, they're going to perform a lot better. So best practices: write conversationally, keep your paragraphs short, use headlines and subheads, avoid all caps, use high pressure sales language like, oh, act now before we run out, or some stuff like that. Very, very fishy, scammy stuff. Do not include attachments. Don't ever do this. It's not a good thing. I see brands do this oftentimes with like images, and it doesn't work out well. You're going to get sent to spam immediately. And then also make sure your personalized content populates correctly. See how like, make sure it doesn't, you don't say like, hi, first name, and this personalization tag does not work. That's not great as well either. Next are images. ISPs can't read the images that you include in your emails. They don't know what you're sending out. So spammers often hide their content in the emails and in images. So avoid sending image-only emails. Try to include some text in there, like a sentence or two. Use alt text for every image, every single one. Never send emails that are just one big image. That's not a big good. Don't ever do that. Always crop it out and split it up into sections. Test how your emails look when the images don't load. This is a big one for like Outlook, Microsoft. They don't like images at all. They're mainly for business, and so when people use them for like promotions, they don't like it at all. So keep that in mind. Compress all your images and try to keep them below 250 kilobytes. If your images don't load, your message still needs to make sense. Keep these in mind as well for images, since everyone's using images nowadays. Next are links. Links is a very simple one. It's fairly straightforward. So ISPs can look at they can read the domain link, the domain name of every link you include. So if it's your domain name, or if it's to Facebook, or if it's to Twitter, or if it's whatever, they can read the domain, and so they can see how fishy and spammy something might be. So just make sure you're sending it to your own domain, or like a very popular one like Facebook or Twitter or something. Embed your links in text or buttons. Don't ever like put an entire link in text. They don't like that. I don't know why. Just do only hyperlink it in text, or just put it in images or buttons. Test all the links before sending. Make sure they're not empty links or broken links. We don't want that. 2 more things. Email structure. If you're using HTML, make sure the HTML code is clean. Make sure the formatting is set up correctly. Make sure it's responsive for dark mode and mobile. Make sure they load fast. ISPs look at this because it can trigger, like poor structure can trigger spam filters, and really it's like a negative user experience, and they don't want that. They want their users to enjoy the emails that they receive, right? So ISPs load images, custom fonts, and HTML differently. So test across different platforms using a tool like Litmus to ensure everything looks good across all devices. And then lastly, required elements. You're legally required to include an unsubscribe link and physical mailing address. I know some brands don't like including a mailing address. You should. ISPs look out for this stuff. Just include it, and so people legally are obligated to see, hey, where you're sending from and whether or not they can subscribe or unsubscribe. Next are your sending patterns. So how when you send your emails matters. Sudden changes in volume or frequency trigger suspicion. So essentially, have a consistent sending schedule. So ISPs look at like how you send your sending patterns. They look at like what's normal, and they kind of flag sudden changes. So have a consistent sending schedule. Send in your audience's time zone. Space out your sending times. This isn't like huge. Like you can kind of email your email list every day. You don't, like, I get brands that ask me like, oh, I don't want to email my entire list, or not my entire. You don't want to email your entire list, but I don't want to email my list every single day. That's not really a problem for ISPs, especially for deliverability. Obviously, you don't want to annoy them, and then they mark you as spam, but that's not really an issue. The only thing that kind of marks as spam for ISPs is kind of just don't email twice on the same day, except for special occasions. That's it. And the number two is the number of emails you send out. So the volume of emails you send out and how you ramp up that volume. ISPs, watch out for unusual spikes. Don't be sending, 100 campaigns one day and then 10,000 campaigns the next. That's not something that you want. Best practices are just avoiding sudden volume spikes, warming up your IP addresses gradually. So if you just started your IP address or you're just sending out email address or email campaigns, then just kind of work up gradually. Send it to a smaller segment size, start with smaller volumes, and scale up based on engagement. Send to your most engaged subscribers first. Don't disappear for long periods. Don't email someone one time and then don't email them for like 4 months. That's not big. The ISPs don't like that. They want to see consistency. Even if it's like twice a month, it's still consistent. And so they see that. And then plan ahead for volume increases. An easy way to get around this is just like email flows. Like email flows sent out every day. Even if it's like a few simple emails, ISPs like this because then it's like, okay, they get used to it. It's like consistent. It's never like a huge ramp up unless you're doing like a giveaway or something. But just keep that in mind as well. And another thing to keep in mind is like good email content is about balance. Just be engaging without being spammy, be personal without being creepy, and be promotional without being pushy. Like ISPs are catching on to this. They're cracking down. It's getting harder. And so you just want to be mindful when it comes to this stuff. But now that we've gone over email inputs and what you can do and what's in your control, we're going to go over outputs and what your subscribers and your email list does that can hurt or impact your deliverability. So outputs are the ways that subscribers interact or don't interact with your emails after you send them. So email providers like Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, they look at this stuff. They want to know that your subscribers are engaging positively to your emails, right? And so that they know in the future, like, hey, should their emails go in the spam or in their inbox? And so there are two main types of outputs that ISPs are looking for. So pretty much positive engagement signals and negative engagement signals. So positive engagement signals are ways that subscribers are engaging with your emails in a good way. People like ISPs like to see this stuff. So number one is like open rates. The percentage of subscribers that are opening your emails. This indicates how much subscribers are interested in your content and helps them determine if it's relevant or not, right? So the number of emails you send out compared to the number of people who open them, right? And this is something you'll see a lot with outputs. This is mainly a statistic game. This is mainly rates. This is percentages. It's not like it highly depends on how many people are opening your emails and like the rates. Now that doesn't mean like, oh, okay, you send out 100 emails to your most engaged audience and 100 of them it's like 100% open rate, and then you could just spam 10,000 list or like audience email, right? That's not how it works. But rates matter a lot. And so metrics to look out for, like as long as you're above 35%, you're doing it fantastic. If you're below 20%, like I said before, you're not doing too well. You need to improve. You need to do better next time. So best practices, make sure that they're above 20%. Test your subject lines and then and preview text, and also play around with segments. Make sure you're just sending to really engaged audiences. That's about it. 2, clicks or click rates. This is a stronger indicator because people are not only clicking on the email to look at it, but they're also looking at the clicks. Like they're clicking on the link towards whatever you're linking towards, right? And so that shows that like your content is relevant and it's really valuable. So metrics to look out for. Above 3.5% is pretty good. Is actually like really, really good. I would say above 3% is good. Industry average is about 2%. If you're below 1%, ISPs don't like that. They want you to be higher. So make your CTAs clear and compelling. Make sure you test your button placement and design. Make sure that your buttons are easy to click on, especially if people are scrolling on mobile and they're like using their thumbs. And then also like link towards valuable content and promotions. That's about it. And 3, replies. So this is the percentage of subscribers who reply to your emails. It's not something that like MailChimp and Klaviyo, they don't track this. You can't see this like tracked on like a statistic, but it is a very high value engagement signal for ISPs. It shows real human interaction and it proves that you're not spam. And so a best practice to this is like a cheat code. Just invite your subscribers to reply to your emails. just send an email, or this could be like in the PS section. Ask people to reply to your emails, and it helps a ton with overall deliverability. That's about it. Now that we've gone over negative or positive engagement signals, let's go over negative engagement signals right now. So this is pretty much people who have a poor experience with emails. They don't like them, they don't want them, and ISPs are a lot more sensitive to these signals than the positive ones. So a simple one here, spam complaints. When people mark your emails as spam, it's a huge damaging signal to your sender reputation. And a bad part about this is that ISPs share this stuff. They share this data. So if you get sent as marked as spam on Google, they share that with Apple. They share that with Outlook. They share that with Yahoo. So that when you get one complaint in one place, you get it. Everyone sees it. It sucks. So even a small increase can cause some serious problems. So metrics to look out for: you want to be below 0.08%. So this is about, I want to say it's roughly 8 spam complaints out of every 10,000 emails sent. That's pretty much what they give you. And if you're above 0.1%, which is about 1 out of every 1,000, it's not good. It's kind of a red flag. People don't want that, right? And if you're above 0.3%, you need to change something there. You need to improve. So best practices: just analyze for complaints. See like what emails are getting marked as spam the most. Look at the messaging. Look at the content. Oftentimes you'll see that it's from like when you're emailing, when you're sending a lot of emails at once. Obviously, like during product launches or for sales events, but also pretty much just product promotions and sales events. So you have to look out for that. 2 is unsubscribe rates. So pretty much the percentage of subscribers who opt out of your emails. This isn't as damaging because it shows that subscribers trust you enough to want to opt out. They'll click the unsubscribe link. So it's a lot better for ISPs, but it's still just not the best. It's not the most disinhibiting because everyone's going to unsubscribe at one point, or it's just a natural occurrence. But so ISPs just kind of look out for huge spikes. So if you're above 1% consistently, that's a problem, and that needs to kind of be addressed. If you're around 0.2 to 0.5, it's not really an issue. It happens all the time, and so that's not something to worry about. And just some best practices: just make the link visible, honor the requests immediately, and then just track reasons, and then also offer preferences. So say if someone gets exhausted of your emails, say, hey, we can pause our emails for 30 days, right? You won't receive emails for 30 days, and then we'll start sending emails to you again. Or it could be for an event like Father's Day, Mother's Day, etc. Lastly, our bounce rates. So percentage of emails that couldn't be delivered. So this includes hard bounces, so invalid emails that just are not in service anymore, and soft bounces, there's just a full email inbox pretty much. This kind of just suggests that you have poor list hygiene and can really quickly damage your sending reputation. You're always going to have bounce emails whenever you send out campaigns. It's just natural. But it's very important to keep in mind of, hey, is there a huge spike? It's very similar to unsubscribe rates. Is there a huge spike? Is there anything that's going kind of just fishy here? Pretty much best practices: remove hard bounces immediately. You can also do this with soft bounces. Keep your bounce rate under 2%, and just clean your list regularly, every 3 to 6 months, to be honest. And also verify your emails before sending. Okay, so now that we've gone through ISPs to look out for, you must be thinking to yourself, so now what? What do we do now? Now's the time to start emailing your customers with the inputs in mind. So we're going to start going through, you can start going through the 39% email deliverability checklist, or just follow the protocol below. So number 1, we just got to check our foundations. So let's just do a quick health checkup on your email account. Number 1, you have to make sure you have the technical setup, your technical foundation set up in place. Without this, you're going to be sent to spam 100%. This is a huge requirement that's necessary to keep in mind for now. So number 1 is just get your sending domain authentication set up in place, as well as your branded sending domain. This isn't really important. You don't really have to worry about this unless you're sending millions of emails, having a dedicated IP address. Otherwise, you're perfectly fine. So you're pretty much fine there. And as well as that, just run a spam test. Use either Glock apps or MX Toolbox just to see, hey, is your domain being blacklisted by your email clients? How are you delivering across different email platforms? Just run a spam test just to see where you're at right now, and so you can know how you can improve. Number 2, start emailing your list. So despite popular opinion, you shouldn't stop emailing your subscribers. This kind of works in some extreme cases, but you merely want to start producing a positive feedback loop for these ISPs, right? And that just comes down to list quality and hygiene status. So removing any old unresponsive subscribers and only emailing people who have engaged with you or your brand or your email account within the last 14 to 30 days, right? That's something to keep in mind. So just start emailing these people. Have your flow set up. So only allow the only following flows to be live: welcome flow, abandoned cart, browse abandonment, and post-purchase flow. These flows are highly engaging. Your post-purchase flow is going to have 70% open rates. Your welcome flow is going to have 50, 60% open rates. These are highly engaging. These are highly engaging flows, especially like abandoned cart, browse abandonment. Those are going to be 30, 40%. And also click rates are really high on those too. And so you want, not only are those highly engaging flows, but they're also sent consistently on a regular basis, and it's not a huge spike. And so having those flows set up helps out a lot, and making sure that your deliverability gets just starts getting repaired. On top of that, you're going to want to start emailing your engaged 14 to 30 day engaged segment once or twice a week. So ensure your open rates are above 20%. If not, just keep reducing this audience segment size. The whole goal here is 30% plus open rates. And if you're there and you're there consistently, then we can start ramping up to higher segments. And also on top of that, improve your email designs and send emails people want to open. Improve your content. Be more charismatic. Don't be just sending promotions. Send valuable insights. Send valuable content. People want that stuff. It helps out a lot. And then number 3, monitor performance and expand. So check out the performance for 2 weeks. If your open rates are consistently above 30%, expand the audience size. Go up from 14 to 30 days to 60 or 30 to 60 days. And don't expand any further past this segment. I'm going to underline this just so you understand this. I get a lot of brands saying, "Oh, it looks like it's improving. We have a sale coming up. We're gonna send it to the entire list." I'm like, do not ever do that. Like, don't. Just, you could send it to engage 30 to 60 days, and then we can see the performance there. But email deliverability is a very fragile thing. It's very hard to get out of, and especially like when you're in the spam box, it's hard to get out of. It's very difficult, and so and especially when you're in the repair process, it's fragile. You don't want to really mess around with the process of getting having these ISPs like Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, AOL. You don't want to break their trust, essentially, and it's hard to get that back. So that's essentially it. If your open rates aren't consistently above 30%, continue until they hit that number. This is a big one that you have to really kind of keep in mind. Consistently email them, just all the time. Just keep that in mind and continue this trend until you're emailing your engaged 90-day audience with 30+% open rates. That's essentially it. Now that you're seeing positive outputs with your email marketing, now's the time to test your reach and start emailing more subscribers. So after this, after your performance is doing pretty well and you're expanding more, now you can start playing around with like win back campaigns and emailing people that you haven't contacted in 180 days and stuff like that. You can play around with that, but that's something to keep in mind. Use this plan above or follow the checklist, and you'll be well on your way to getting your emails delivered again. And hopefully you'll end up in shock and awe like this once your emails start getting delivered again. So that's essentially it. This is the entire ultimate email deliverability guide and how you can really start getting your emails delivered within 4 weeks. That's essentially it. So if you like this, and if you like this video, and if you're really having email, so if you're still having right now, if you're still having deliverability issues, feel free to click the link below in the description to schedule a deliverability audit. In my team, we could go in and check your Klaviyo account, check in your email service provider or sending platform, and we could just check out and see, hey, what kind of game plan can we follow to improve your email deliverability? It's not always cutthroat, and it's not always straightforward, and so it can be a little bit of a hassle to fix. So if you want more of a personalized approach, click the link below. Otherwise, you can also find this deliverability guide and the corresponding checklist in the description as well. So feel free to take a look at this, sign up for it. You're going to